Dear Sony, this is an open letter in video format that I doubt anyone at Sony will actually see, or even if they did, if they would even care, but I wanted to share it anyway and share it with you guys. Before I get into this, I want to say two things. First of all, if you've followed my show for a while, you know that I'm a big fan of Sony. I also use Canon and some other things, but I'm a huge fan of the stuff that Sony makes. I think the image quality is outstanding. There are some problems with Sony cameras, but I put up with them because the image quality is so much better than some of the other offerings from various things. So this is what I want to talk about today. The second thing I want to say is, just to make it clear, I don't have any affiliation with Sony whatsoever. I'm not paid by Sony. I don't endorse them. I'm not sponsored. I just simply spend my own hard-earned money on their cameras, including tax and shipping like everybody else. Several years ago, Sony introduced this camera, and this is the NEX5, which is a tiny little camera. And this NEX series got me really excited when it came out. I also had the NEX6, and I had the NEX7 as well. And the reason I was excited about this are two things. One, look at how small this is. I can get this in places and have it with me and do things with this camera. This is not a DSLR, this is tiny. And so that was one thing that really excited me. Also the price point. We're talking about cameras that are in that $1,000-ish category, maybe over or under, give or take. And so the price was right. And then the thing that really made me interested in these was the E-mount system that they were putting on these cameras. And basically the lens mount distance from the lens mount to the sensor is so small that pretty much if you can get an adapter, you can use any lens. Maybe you can't use autofocus with it, but whatever, you could still adapt this to anything. And so that's what really got me excited. And it seems like Sony have really made some advancements over the years, and they've really, I think, not only pushed the technology of what can be done, but they also push other camera companies to start doing things as well. And I think this is wonderful. This is really exciting for somebody like me who is on the creator end of things, and I go back and forth between shooting stills and video quite a bit. I shoot a lot of stills and I shoot a lot of video, and these cameras really are perfect for me in that regard. And as the lineups have evolved, and this leads up to the A50-100 that I'm shooting on now, which I still think, I mean, it's a $500 body. It's one of the best deals in photography. They introduced a touch screen. It has a flip up, much like the NEX5 did, but it has a flip up touch screen. And they introduced a new codec for the video, the XAVC codec, which handled a higher bit rate than the AVC HD that we were used to before. And it was a game changer. I really like the quality of this video. It's one of the best 1080 cameras for the money that you're going to find anywhere. And I really recommended that camera when it came out, and still do, because I think at that price, it's incredible, especially if you shoot stills and video. Most recently, I picked this one up, which was the A6300, which was the evolution up from the A6000. A6000 was a great camera, but all these cameras suffer from overheating in video mode, including the A50-100. And I was so excited when the A6300 was announced. I even did a show on it. I talked about it quite a bit, and the low light performance was going to be amazingly improved. And this one does 4K video. And the idea of doing 4K video, and Sony in their marketing materials said that this will do 4K, quote unquote, better than some of the A7 cameras. And the reason being, and what they defined better as being, is that it was basically taking a 6K readout off the sensor and bringing that down to 4K, and it was doing it with no pixel binning, no line skipping. You were going to get excellent low light performance, and all those things are true, except for the matter that it overheats. And again, it just drives me crazy, because you'll read blog posts and people think that they figured out a way to keep it from overheating, and then update, sorry, this didn't work, and that shouldn't be up for blog posts to figure out. It feels like Sony is releasing products that aren't finished. And this one does 4K. Well, the A50-100 still can't handle 1080 and give me any more than 8 or 9 minutes of recording time before it overheats and shuts down. And it is just so frustrating. Now, I will say this, and I'm not trying to defend Sony at all. Like I said, the reason I put up with this is because the image quality is outstanding on all of these cameras, and that's the most important thing to me. I've got two Panasonics over there that are on loan because I wanted to check them out, and I'll share those with you eventually and when I get a better handle on it. But already I can see that the compression is much heavier than what Sony uses, and unless you're in really bright light, which is also a byproduct of being Micro Four Thirds, they just don't perform the same. And so again, that's why I'm sticking with Sony. These are fabulous cameras, and I read an article the other day basically saying due to the earthquake damage in Japan, the factory had sustained damage, and it's going to take them longer than they thought to get that going again, so they're going to hold off announcements on new products. Well, I understand, and that is terrible, and I understand that Sony is probably costing them a fortune to get that back together. However, why don't we fix the cameras that are out there? And I don't know enough about it. I'm not an engineer. I'm not on a product team at Sony, so I don't know what that process is, what the budgets are like, what the timeline's like. But you'd think that maybe this is fixable in a firmware update or something. Probably what's happening with the overheating issue is the processors are not strong enough to handle what's being fed. I'll tell you another problem with the A6300 that's driving me crazy is that the 4K video looks incredible if you're shooting at 24 frames a second. As soon as you switch that to 30 frames a second, which is the television standard in the US, and a lot of people shoot at 30 frames a second, all of a sudden it crops in on the sensor and the low light performance is lost a little bit. And the only thing I can attest to this is that it's handing the processor more information than it can handle, so it has to crop in on a smaller area of the sensor to reduce that. But your marketing materials say one thing, and then this does another. Now, here's another possibility that's going on here. All these cameras have the sensors that are capable of giving us all the stuff we're looking for in this. There's no doubt in my mind. The processor may be the bottleneck, and there is a possibility in my mind that this is a very dangerous price point level when you're at the $1,000 give or take, because the company can always come back and say, well, if you really need that, you need to spend and buy the $3,000. So there's protecting of the higher models that go on. And this frustrates me because as somebody who makes stuff, the price point is very important, I think, because there's a whole generation of younger people out there that are going to use these cameras to do some amazing things because they're affordable. And I think that if the problems were worked out with the overheating and the other issues that come up, it would make a huge difference. And I understand that you know, upper level cameras, especially like the FS5 or something like that, costs a lot more money. And if a company that's doing production in their budget, they are renting one of these, and for the price of one rental, they can buy something off the A7 line, or they can buy lower, than they probably will, so it doesn't protect that upper line. But I don't understand any of that because I'm just a creator. I do these videos on very low budget. I don't have the budget to go out and spend $5,000 on a camera or $9,000 or whatever that is. And so I am in this classification. It just drives me crazy that the marketing suggests that these do things and then there are problems. And like I said, they just feel unfinished. It is possible, as I said, I'm not an engineer. I don't work for Sony, that there's something I'm missing. And if you know something that I don't, please tell me in the comments. I'm not above being wrong on something or not seeing something correctly. But it is just a frustrating situation, and that's all I wanted to say in my open letter to Sony here, if you will. And like I said, I doubt anybody at Sony will see it or care, but I really love their products. I've spent a lot of my own hard-earned money on them over the years, and you know, for the artist series, I rent 2 Sony A7 R2s for that, and I shoot those in 4K. At least those don't overheat. The battery life is another problem, but we'll get into that in a later date. I have to have adapters for those to keep continuous power to them. It's just very difficult when you're doing an interview with an artist and you're trying to maintain that conversation, and all of a sudden half of your mind needs to be on whether or not a camera's overheating. It just won't work. And so anyway, that's why I rent more expensive models for that. But anyway, I will come back to the Sony A6300. I think it's a stills camera. It's magnificent. I don't have a lot of problems on the stills side of it. It's mostly video that I'm talking about, and it's just really frustrating to me. I'm getting the overheat warning now, so I better end this. Leave me a comment. If you enjoyed this video, like it, share it, subscribe to The Art of Photography so you'll always be up to date when I do new videos. And until the next one, I'll see you guys then. Later.